Now, what I would like to go through in P2 is project appraisal, further aspects of investment decision making, right? Now, first, let us look into that area, project appraisal and further aspects of investment decision. The reason is because there's opportunities, ample opportunities here for us to come up with new projects, right? And how do we analyze it? And most of the time, examiner asks you this kind of questions. They will not ask you to calculate something. Most probably they'll give you the calculations already done for you to interpret and then do the justification and answering side of it. Okay, now let me go to page 87. Right, let me try to expand this. So in this case, there are few areas that we will go through in a project appraisal, right? The investment decision making, relevant cash flows, investment appraisal techniques. In the techniques, we will take into consideration the taxation, working capital, and the inflation as well, right? Now, the reason that you need to focus on these three aspects is your investment appraisal may change based on the taxation component as well as the inflation, right? It will have a major role to play. Now, when it comes to investment decision-making process, there's a creation phase, decision phase, and implementation phase, right? And when we look at, let's go toggle between our Spark space and this particular theory right now and see how can we relate to it, right? Now, in this case, how can this play a role, this section play a role in Spark space, right? How could you bring about this investment decision-making process for a project? Right. These are questions that I want you to think about because I'll ask some of you to discuss this. So one thing is to say, right, I've got a project that the board is thinking of investing, and here are the statistics. Here are the this is a positive NPV, and it's got these cash flows. And should we invest in this or not? What do you think, Gavin? How would you go about actually this investment decision process when it comes to a project? Think of it in the form of people that you need to involve. Right now, any investment process, how would you go about it is the question, right? And you need to incorporate these things as well.
Your question is under to how do you go about the entire process?
Yes, correct. How would you go about it?
Yeah, I think if you start with this creation process, say if you take instance with Spark Space,
yes,
they have brought about an idea about, see, they are a semi-automated production line.
correct.
Talk about cobots, so this could be an option that could come up, saying that why can't we automate, do more automation?
Yes.
On the So this could be a project by itself.
That's an objective.
That's an objective.
Correct. Now you can see how I'm relating this to the objective, right? So you got a clear objective in mind, which is linked to your strategy of reducing cost.
So, yeah. So then you would do a project appraisal. Project appraisal. You would you can do an ARR or an NPV method. You do an appraisal of project. Then you have issues such as costing for the project, then staffing for the project. Funding.
Right. So I'm going to ask you the same question after we go through this, right? And see which what I want you guys to do is actually jot down what it would take to do a project. Now, it doesn't matter what it is, right? I could invest in a new IT system. I could invest in a new company. I could invest in anything, right? The principle here is I'm investing in something, right? The principle is that, and for that we need to understand whether we are doing it in the proper order. Is there a structure behind it, right? So to this, what we're saying is, well, you need to create a phase. What are the objectives? Is it linked to your strategy, right? And then if you remember, we have something called the SAFS model. That is suitability, acceptability, feasibility plus sustainability, right? We will put this kind of analysis through that model as well to understand, well, how does it work, right? The decision phase is listing possible alternatives, carrying out financial analysis, making the decision, right? So you have a creation phase, then you go into the technical aspects of it. You are looking at technically financial models that you will use, like what we're using, the payback, ARR, NPV, IRR, right? To understand from a finance angle, does it make sense? Right? Does it make sense for us to invest? And then we look at the implementation phase, where we look at the post-completion audit. Now, in all these, we need to have a very clear pre-KPIs. What are your KPIs before your project? And what are your KPIs after the project, right? Because then you can clearly understand this is your advantage. You have an advantage by implementing this project. You have achieved your benefits, right? So you decide prior to starting the project this kind of KPIs. But your pre-project, initiating the project, you know what your KPIs are currently, right? If it's semi-automated, you know currently the process, what is the output, right? And you have an idea what it's gonna be when it's automated, what's gonna be your output here. So, and in this phase, you will also have something called, you will have a steering committee. Now, before that, you need to engage your community, right? Engage your stakeholders. How will you do that? You will have a steering committee. Steering committee is there to steer you in the right direction, and also they are your lobbyists, right? They are the ones who will basically guide you. So the steering committee is there, the control group is there, and these are the guys, and the working group. So there can be 3 levels, right? 3 levels or more, depending on the complexity of the project. And you can say, then you will say, well, this is the operationally, this is how it will work, right? But the first one is about the decision making. Yes, Gavin.
Sorry to interrupt. Now, if the examiner tells you, yes, we are trying to do, we have decided, because last time when I did it, they tell you we have decided on it. Now,
correct.
See, we have decided on, we're going on with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So then do you need to say, when you go into the creation phase, so then you can straight away say, so do you need to say that we need to, can you bring in saying that we need to do an NPV, we need to do an IRR method, we need to to check whether the feasibility use the fastest model,
So-
irrespective of the fact that they have already made the decision to go ahead with the project.
Yes, so they have made the decision to go ahead with the project, but what was the following question? What was the question?
I forget. Because
What did you have to do after that? So they would have said, well, you've created a
we have decided to go ahead with this. Now please tell us how do we go about this? Something to that effect. So should
Right.
I highlight saying that yes, fine, we go ahead, but we need to check these. We need to do this.
No,
we need to
no.
find human resources part.
Sorry,
No.
no, because now you have to, thanks for bringing this up, because this is another thing that the students do and they get wrong, right? As soon as you see an investment appraisal, thing, you can just put everything like the kitchen sink, basically. Oh, investment appraisal, let me put all these things that I know about investment appraisal. No, it's not. So in this case, the examiner has very clearly stated, we have decided to go ahead with the project. So there's no argument about, well, has it got a positive NPV or negative NPV, nothing like that. They would have asked you, how do we proceed with this?
Something to that effect. Because
Yes.
in the pizza time one, it was about they had decided to have a coffee shop in the morning
Yes,
time.
yes,
And first question was they are deciding. Second one is the board has decided to go ahead with it, and we are running short of time.
yes.
Now we need to act. So that was the
Right. So
something to that effect.
yes. Now, don't go to that point. Don't go and talk about payback, ARR, NPV, IRR, because that's irrelevant. So you need to actually really look at what they are. We will get to this because I do have this question. We will get to it, right? Maybe I'll put it, if I don't have time today, maybe I'll put it as a question for you to answer, because what you need to do is then talk about, if they've asked, well, we've decided on this, we have embarked on it now, we're running short of time, it's supposed to start in 2 months time, we think it's gonna take 3 months, what should we do? Right, this is another classic case as to what can we do, right? That's a different story. Okay, that's a different story, because there you need to look at the project management, and in a different angle you need to look at, right? You will not argue about or debate about your NPV IRR, right?
So I think then we need to go straight away to item 3, implementation and post audit. You can talk about those.
Not even, no, because you're not
even.
finished, right? You have not, you are now looking at that point, you're looking at, right, these are the 50 activities now I have to do. I cannot do 50 activities. If I do the 50 activities, I will take 3 months. What are the must do activities? Now I start taking out. What are the risks of doing only those? Can I operate?
Because there were sequential questions, and the last question I remember was about recruitment.
Right.
And they talk about recruiting minority and was it handicapped people or something like that. So there was an ethical question also in there.
So I'm talking to you in this case only the technical aspects of just looking at the numbers, if that is given to you, right? We will definitely come to that question that you mentioned, because it's a very interesting question as to how to answer, right? Now in this case we are talking about, one question would be how to create a project, right? Then you look at, does it link with the strategic objectives? What are the objectives of this, and who should be involved? Is the business environment conducive to this project, right? And who should be in the steering committee? Who should be in creating the proper governances, right? So That is important. And then we embark on the project, right? We also then look into the risks associated. So we all have all these things in place in order for us to go into the project management, right? Now, the next one, they talk about the post-completion audit. The reason why we do a post-completion audit is because to see, actually, have we achieved the benefits that we said we were going to achieve. This is another classic area. Even in reality, when it comes to benefit realization, nobody bothers, right? Because we start off a project saying, okay, I'm going to reduce 5 FTEs, full-time employees. These are the process improvements I'm going to do, right? We have very good 3-4 the KPIs. By the time we finish the project, we've forgotten all about it. We don't even go there, right? So this is a problem that's not only it's a universal problem. So the thing is to bring it, to have the proper governance, to bring it into to the table and say, well, who is the project sponsor? He or she should be responsible for this, to drive it not only to a closure, to ensure that we achieve the benefits. Because if you don't achieve the benefits, what's the point in doing the project? Right? There's no point. So again, post-completion audit is a very, very important thing to ensure that we've got our benefits realization sorted, right? So alternative control processes are teams could manage a project from the beginning to the end, right? More time could be spent choosing the projects, right? So you need to prioritize the projects because, well, we don't have infinite amount of money. So when you select the project itself, you should be quite careful. You should have a board which comprises of senior management from across the business who will represent the business, and then each one present whatever the capital expenditure projects that they want to be doing. I had a classic case once in one of the organizations I worked, very large organization, and they had entities across Australia. Because of the entities, operating in silos, they didn't realize they were doing projects, same types of projects, and wasting money. So when Accenture came to do a study on this, they did a study, and one of the key things they found was, you guys are not talking, have a project review board which will basically mandate and review projects from across the organization, because they found so many projects that were duplicate projects, right? So these are again good examples that you can come up with. Now, you might be given payback period. At this point, they're not asking you to calculate the payback period. They will be giving you payback period, the figures from it, and asking you, what do you think? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Anybody who can come up and give me some advantages, disadvantages of payback period, payback method. You guys would have done it for P1, I think. So I'm just testing on your technical sides as well, the technical ability. Yep. Kumari, any view from you? What do you think? Here you go. We've got the advantages and disadvantages. Now, payback period is a great way of just, back of the envelope calculating to see, well, does it give me a good quick payback, right? So the logic is, if the quicker the payback, better it is, right? The quicker something that I get, it is better, because the risk is less, right? And it's, long payback means capital is tied up, right? Enhanced liquidity, so it's good. The risk is shortened, right? Very easy to calculate. The same is, because it's so easy to calculate, it's also a disadvantage. It doesn't take into account the time value for money, right? It doesn't take that into account. So you may actually use this type of thing to invest, if you're trying to invest in short-term projects. But then again, there's a lot of disadvantages. But just as a first pass, it's okay to calculate this way, just as a first pass, to kind of understand, well, how do we go, right? So that's one. The next one, we talk about accounting rate of return. What do you think, Gavin, some of the issues with accounting rate of average annual, this accounting rate of return is? Any advantages, disadvantages in this? Any views? Well, because you are using the average annual profits for an investment, from an investment. Now, it does have all the inherent issues of profit, because, well, when you're calculating profit, we calculate depreciation, we have accruals there, we have all kinds of things that's there in a profit, right? So in this case, we will have, this is not the cash flows, but this is the profit. So it has issues, we generally have issues when we calculate profit, using ratios, and profits are involved. So the same kind of thing is applicable for this accounting rate of return, right? Again, why is it so used quite a bit? Because it's very simple. Looks at the entire project life, right? Easily calculated from financial statements. So we find that people do use it quite often, because of this, right? And like I said, many disadvantages. Again, you don't look at the time value for money, that's ignored. And there is an example given here how you calculate this accounting rate of return. Now, if you're not very familiar with the accounting rate of return, the average accounting rate of return, do look at a sum that you have in your study text, right? Because it's important that you understand how it is calculated. Like I said, they will not ask you to do the calculation, but they will expect you to give an interpretation of it, right? You can see, how they have, how you can interpret this, right? And it's given here, because now let's look at this example. They've taken a profit and profit after depreciation. So the depreciation is it's not a cash flow item, right? But they have taken that will kind of skew if you're calculating or comparing certain projects, right? Maybe depreciation rates will be different, right? So you can see how we could go wrong very quickly trying to calculate something. Any views on this, Gavin?
On this one?
On the average accounting rate of return. Why you would stay away from this?
As we have mentioned, in terms of, as a rudimentary computation, you can do it. But as you said, depreciation levels can be screwed off. And accounting profit, in terms of, it's not cash flows. If you have high debtors and all that, your cash flows are not there.
Correct.
So Accounting profits can be far different from cash flows.
Yes, yes. So this is something that again very easy, but then how you interpret and how it could be one of the first ways, first pass, but not the only thing. Now, if you're not familiar or with discounting factors, how to calculate net present value and the IRR, I will strongly recommend at this point for you to do some homework on this, right? You need to know how to calculate net present value and internal rate of return, because not that they will ask you this, but you will have to interpret this. Okay, and then you need to carry out your application of this theory. The great thing here is you have got the discounting factors, and you can apply. So how does if I say, let's put this question through, I use for a project a discounting factor of 10%, and to another project B, I use discounting factor of 14. Why is the difference? One is 10, one is 14. What is the difference?
Is the risk tolerance level?
Correct. Sorry?
Is the tolerance level the risk that you're taking into account?
Anyone else? Kumari, what do you think? One is 10, one project A is 10, project B is 14. Why do you think? Anyone else who is doing the exam? I would like you to answer, please. So, Gavin, yeah, go on. Someone wants to answer? Trust, you want to give an answer? Could be different sources of financing. Okay, so how would different sources of financing impact this? Good answer. Good answer. So one of the things, like Gavin mentioned, is the risk. The risk of project B is far higher, so it's a 14% rather than a 10%, right? And basically your weighted average cost of capital might be, for that particular project, maybe higher than the other one, right? And even the cost of capital will differ based on the risk, as well as depend on the different types of funding that you're getting, right? So what Trust mentioned is also quite correct. Depends on the type of funds from where we're going to get. Yeah, so it is good. And we have got assumptions in the net present value when we calculate it, but still NPV is preferred to that of any other, because it gives some kind of it gives you that time value for money, which is very, very important fact, right? And then, because it gives you the time value of money, you can understand your basically your cost, the net present value, whether we are making a profit or loss from this particular project. Yeah. And let us go to, no, I don't need this, the additional points. What does an IRR tell you? Anybody? What does an IRR tell you? Internal rate of return. What does an IRR tell you? It gives you the break-even point. Basically, this is what it does, right? It gives you the break-even point at which interest rate, right? At which discounting factor factor, this will break even. Say, for example, my target discounting factor, right? I'm looking for a return of 10%, right? And I hit the IRR, internal rate of return, at 8%. So in this case, I should go ahead with the project because my IRR, or it will break even at 8%, right? Sorry, the decision, it has to be the IRR is greater than the target rate of return. The project is worth undertaking. Apologies, because just misunderstood. Because say, for example, if you do an IRR at 8%, right, and whatever the at the end you will get your a figure, let's say it's 100, right? You get a figure of, let's say the net present value is 100, but when it comes to a 14%, what would it be? If it's 14%, it will be much lesser, isn't it? Have you guys done the calculation of, when you do internal, basically a net present value using the discounting factors? Have you guys done a net present value calculation? I just want to find out how you guys are, your technical ability. I just want to find out, because if you have not done, that's fine. I will give you some sums around it. Right, Trust says yes. Anyone else? Because this is important for me to understand. Gavin, how about you?
Yeah, I have done it the last time. I just did it on practice, but on a day-to-day basis, I don't use it. But the conceptually, I know how it works. Just what I am baffled about one part of this. And you say you have a project. So now, say a new project. Now, when you're computing the NPV, you would take, maybe they will give you cash flows of 3 years or 4 years. Now this project will have an unlimited timeline.
Yes,
so why
annuity.
would you take 3 years of, annuity? Why do you take 3 years or 4 years? If you take cash flows, is there a particular reason why you do that? Or
yes,
a project
yes. So what you would do is, if a project is there to infinity, you're expecting this amount of cash flow. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there is a formula that you will use. With that formula, right, you will be calculating cash flows to infinity.
Okay.
That's how. So year 1 to 5, you have different cash flows. Let's say 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, right? From 5 year to infinity, it might be $5,000 that you're going to get every year to infinity. Right, then there is a discounting rate that will use to infinity, and then you will work out the net present value. So what I'm gonna do is give you some examples that I'm gonna put in the Dropbox. Okay. I'm gonna give you a question and answers to it. Right. Do have a look at this, because if you're not very familiar on how to calculate the net present value IRR, this is a very easy thing, right? It's a very easy thing to score marks. And in this case, you're not even asked to calculate, you're told to basically interpret, right? So you need to interpret it right. And IRR as well, it's very easy to basically understand, because they will give two discounting factors, and then you need to calculate. I'll put this in your Dropbox on how to calculate basically these net present values, right? Now if I go to my next this is the graphical approach, and this is what they're showing. You can see the estimated IRR, there is a break even. At that point, the project from there on, it is a positive, right? From there on. So let me go to the NPV uses, versus IRR, how you use it. So IRR method is more easily understood. They prefer that, right? Because it's easily understood, because at this point the project break even. So anything, if it is anything below it, you take. So another thing is time value for money. We spoke about it. And if there is inflation, we have to take that into consideration in our calculation as well. And so is tax, right? So is tax. And we only take relevant costs, no depreciation, right? Those things are not taken into consideration at all. We can also have discounted payback, right? Discounted payback is, we do the payback, we calculate it, however we use the discounting factors to calculate the payback as well. Now here you go. When it comes to corporation tax, right, there is an example. If a project increases taxable profit by 5,000 in year 4, there will be a tax payment of 5,000 multiplied by 30%, right, into 50%. So let us see this. These tax payments of 750 are direct results of the projects, right? So this whole thing needs to be calculated into your discounting factor as well, right? And here they are assuming a tax rate of 30%. Yeah. Again, I think I'm going to include this as part of your question and answer to make things easier for you. Let us see anything else that I need to talk to you about. Right. Now, I will not go into this one, right? But I will give you a question right now. So Gavin, to your point, I'm going to try and locate that question. I think I have it with me, so bear with me for a second, right? Now in this one, let me see if I can basically expand this so that you could see it better. So this is the question. The board has had a number of discussions since your helpful reply to my last email. We have decided to embark on an ambitious expansion plan involving at least 50 new restaurants. Doesn't matter the coffee shop or restaurant, same concept, right? To minimize our exposure to the risks of operating in this relatively unfamiliar environment, we plan to use franchising to expand. We have projected some figures and these are shown in the attached spreadsheet. We have projected 5 years into the future. We are working on the assumption that things will have settled down by year 5 and that year 5 results will be repeated indefinitely into the future. I have attached the spreadsheet that shows that this expansion has the potential to generate significant positive net present value for us. I need your advice on the following matter. Firstly, I need your thoughts on the validity of the assumptions underlying our projections. I'm happy that the arithmetic is correct and that an appropriate discount rate has been applied, so please ignore these issues. Secondly, I would appreciate your advice on the specific project management issues arising from the implementation of this project. What should we do to ensure that this aspect of the expansion is a success? Now, first thing I want you to write down for me is what questions are they asking. So you will be sharing this answer with the class. Therefore, please have your answer typed in the computer, right? And first question is, how many questions are there in this one question, right? So I'll give you 3 minutes to put that down. After that, I'm going to go into and show you the spreadsheet, what they've given. Okay, so I'll give you 3 minutes basically to do that. Okay, so have you guys put up your topics? Are you clear with that? Gavin, is it all right?
Anju, you wanted us to highlight what is the question?
what are
For
the
the cost
questions that
of
they're
it?
asking? Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Have you done?
Yes.
Okay, so now is the net present value calculation, right? And this is where you need to put your answer. Now, as you can see, they've given you the net present value calculation, right? And do you now remember what they're asking, or do you want me to go to the previous one? I'm going to give you 7 minutes now from now on for you to give that answer, okay? I want an answer plan from you. If you want me to go to the previous sheet, let me know.
Anju, can you go slide? Just
Yeah, sure.
yeah, for a second. Anju, can you come back to the figure?
Yeah. Okay then. So I think time's up. So let me ask one of you guys to share the screen. And how about you? Are you up for it? I know it's your first day. Okay, no problem. What about somebody else? Truss, what about you? Or Wilfred? Gavin, you're my last resort, right? You know that. Right. Okay, yes, Truss, you can share the screen. So what you can do is I will unmute you. Yeah. And now you can share your screen with, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, I only looked at question 1, which I thought we were looking at.
Yes.
Which so there are two questions basically. The first one is on the franchise and really about checking the validity of the assumptions, projections, and then I just thought maybe reaching a conclusion. The second one, which I didn't build, was really around project management issues. Now, this is just a stab at the wind, but basically I thought explaining about what a franchise is, very high level, what issues may arise from a franchise. And then there are a few assumptions that were stated, which I thought we need to check, which were the fact that things settle down in year 5 resulting to perpetuity. Of course, that could be risky if we begin to face competition within the industry or there are industry issues that begin to affect planned return. So that could call the planned revenue or income or cash flow from year 5 onwards to risk. I also noticed that there were really no capital outlays in year 0. Maybe because it's a franchise, but
Yes.
we need to also check that. On the projections, I noticed that from year 1 to 2 and year 2 to 3 there were really high increase in franchise fees. That's sounded quite ambitious. Well, we need to just ensure that there are plans in place to ensure that is achieved, and what plans are there in place to ensure that's achieved. On royalties was almost tripled from year 2 to 3. I thought that was also kind of ambitious, and it may be nice to see what plans are in place to ensure that's achieved. Overall, to achieve the expected cash flow projections from year 1 to 2 and year 2 to 3, we need to look at what marketing strategy we have, what ads we intend to carry out to be able to achieve the expected cash flow. Also recheck the fact of the reason about why there's no capital outlay in year 0, and if that's so, the project basically looks positive with a positive NPV, seems to protect shareholders' wealth, and maybe we should then pursue the franchise option. Like I said, very high level. I'm not sure how good this is, but I just thought to give it a
No,
try.
the thing is, it's a good thing. At least you attempted, so that's positive, which is good, because it's through that we improve. Otherwise, it's very difficult for people to get the marks, because you need to participate. You need to basically try, and we will be doing many questions. So by the time you come to the exam, you will be prepared, right? So thank you, Tross, for that. Kumari, have you got anything to share with us?
How do I stop sharing now?
Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
Anju?
Yes.
Sorry. Anju, on the question itself, they have asked the validity of the assumptions.
Yes.
But technically, they have not given the assumptions. They are just given the projection. They are given the final figure. They don't tell us, like if we have to process this thing.
We will get to it.
Okay, so that is part of the question itself?
Yes. Kumari, how about you? Are you able to share anything? Kumari?
Anju, actually no, because I was just thinking, I figured, I couldn't, I didn't build an answer, but
Right.
I thought that in the NPV calculation itself, there is no provision for like future risks or anything. So I was just thinking to myself, but I actually didn't attempt to write an answer.
Okay, all right. Anything from you, Gavin?
No, Andrew, I think Trust has done much more than what I have done. I just jotted it down because I was thinking that the assumptions itself are not there. So should I have put that down as a limitation, that there is no assumption to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me actually share my screen again. And let us go to what they have asked you. So we have projected 5 years into the future. We are working on the assumptions that things will have settled down by the year 5, and and that year's results will be repeated to the indefinite future. The spreadsheet is there that shows that this expansion has the potential to generate significant positive net present value. I need you to advise on the following matters. Firstly, I need your thoughts on the validity of the assumptions underlying our projections. I'm happy that so the arithmetic is right. Discount rate has been applied, so please ignore these issues. Secondly, I would appreciate your advice on the specific project management issues arising from the implementation of this project. Trust, can I go back to your answer? I want to have a look at it because first thing is about the assumption, second thing is about the specific project management issues that's arising from the implementation of this project. Have you captured that?
Just a minute, expand this.
Yeah.
So there are two questions. I saw two questions basically. The first question was on the franchise and testing the assumptions. The second one, which I didn't build on, was on the project management issues. So key points for me, I'm not sure how right this is, but key points for me were: one, what were the project management issues that we need to ensure, especially also during implementation, and key points to ensure expansion is a success. So there are two questions that I gathered from that. Was it an email?
Right. Okay. So you focus a lot on one area, but couldn't focus much on the others, right?
I thought the timing you gave actually was for the first question. Sorry, I'm sorry about that.
No, because the thing is, giving you, actually I should give you less than that time, because you can see your timing is 45 minutes, right? So you need to come up with very fast, you need to type pretty fast. This is your answer and go about it, right? Very, very fast. Now let us jump in to the answer that they have given. Okay.
Okay. I'll stop sharing.
Now I would like to look at their marking guidance. First, let's look at the marking guidance because this is important. Our section was project appraisal, right? The second one. Project management issues, right? Advice on the project management issues. The technical is on the evaluate assumptions underlying project appraisal, right? So these are the two main things that they're asking. Now let's go to the answer. Let's go to the examiner's report to see what he's saying about this, whether he was happy. Task 2, variant 1, variant 2, task 2. No. No, this is not the one. Let's go anyway into my answer. So section 2, right? So basic assumption will be, so the assumptions are 4 years, and then from the 5th year unrealistic, right? I think, Tross, you mentioned that. So they're talking about this part of it. Then you mentioned about the royalties, they mentioned that. Right, so their underlying assumptions are basically on the the sales, right? How they've achieved it, the royalties, is it realistic, right? The kind of sales that they're targeting, is it realistic? It's too ambitious, right? Then they talk about the project management issues, right? How do you deal with it? And they talk established presence in Sealand, recruiting legal advisors, and so on. Then they talk about the team of the project. I think, Trust, you've started writing about it. But then you have to see, now you're talking, you're working with franchisees, right? That you're talking with third parties, so how you include them into this project. So then they talk about adequately resourcing, right? Break down the project appraisal down to various measurable targets, which is good, right? And how do you go about it? And the project progress, right? Now you can see that by looking at your technical side of things this afternoon, we kind of got an understanding how things work, but there is a lot in the interpretation, right? There is a lot in the interpretation. So the first one was the projections, the underlying assumptions itself. So they're asking you to look at the assumptions and see, is it valid what we have given? Is it realistic? Right. So Trust, thanks for your answer. You're on the right track. So the first thing was to understand, what are the assumptions. However, you mentioned something about franchising at the beginning, right? So they're not asking the question about what is a franchisee or what is franchising, or they've not asked that question. So don't spend time trying to explain that, right? Because that's not asked. They've asked only very specific questions around the assumptions, then how to manage the project and so on, right? How to make it a success. Any other questions around this? Gavin, what do you think?
It's a lot.
I think what we kind of get into trouble with is because our expectation when we go to the exam is one thing, and what we get is something completely different.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Now, I had a session with the strategic case study guys this afternoon. I gave them a question. They were like, "What did you do to me?" Right? And it's like, I have not studied this. I just can't understand how to think about it even in the first instance, right? Because that's exactly, and that was a past paper, exam paper, right? It's an exam question. I said, it's nothing that I've made up. It's a past paper. I've just adapted it, right? So, because they're asking you very practical things, right? This is kind of like an MBA level. It's not, you do your investment appraisal and then you go to the exam, you expect to do the investment appraisal sum and you go back home. That's not it. They are asking you so many other things to basically find out, do you really understand what it takes to be a strategic manager, right? So they are testing you on some of the, you can see they're not even testing you on your technicalities here, right? In certain things they're not, but they're asking, especially this top level, they're not asking you on certain things. They're just asking you, well, the assumptions from a business angle. They're asking this. Right? Then they're asking about the project management itself, right? I mean, again, if you're going into a different country and starting a different project, you need to consult legal, right? That is key thing. Who are the other people that you'll bring into the project is also important. Yeah. And then you look at, do we have the necessary skills? Is it properly resourced? Yeah. And then we look at, planning, and then you also need to talk about the stakeholders in the project, right? And how to engage all of them. Now, having said that, let us go to our next section. Let me stop sharing this for a second. And I just want to get your views on this, how you feel, approaching the question, answering it. How do you feel? Do you feel confident? Do you think, the approach is very different to what you thought it was? Yes, Sam. Okay, so it's as expected. Okay, fine. Let me go and go into my presentations. Just want to find out whether I worked with you guys on the balance scorecard. Gavin, did I work with you guys on the balance scorecard?
No, not
right. Okay, fine. So balance scorecard, let me open this up. Right, okay. Now, what we're looking at is balance scorecard and Sparks and Space, right? In Spark Space. We have to look at the financial perspective, customer perspective, internal business angle, as well as innovation and learning. Now, what sort of a business is this, basically? Right. The business is in technology, right, and cutting edge technology. So, very innovative company, invests in research and development, and so this is the kind of environment that we are in. Do you think, Gavin, are we in a growth phase or are we in a saturated mode? What do you think? Where are we with Spark Space?
With Spark Space,
Anyone else? Where are we with this particular industry, the IT industry? What do you think?
If I should give a shot at that,
yeah.
So if I look at the products that Sparkspace currently have in the market, so servers apparently seems to be saturated, but it seems that the HPC space is currently in a growth phase, and there's some talk about iCloud storage, which seems to be very, very much at the introductory market stage, I would say.
Right. So it's a very interesting area because you're quite right. It's very difficult to say, are we in a growth phase, introductory phase? It depends on the products we have, isn't it? Right? So it depends on how we ourselves, Spark Space, is how innovative we are, how we go into this to this area, embrace the technology, and depending where we sit, right, it could be in the growth phase, it could be in the introductory phase, right? So however, this is something a very new area, right? New things are happening constantly. That's the underlying thing that you need to remember. A lot of innovation taking place, right? Now, if I look at Spark Space, then what we're trying to do is look at it in different angles, right? If I can compare this balance scorecard, it's somewhat like your LinkedIn profile, isn't it? Right? When I look at it, it's like, okay, now traditionally, if we go to, if you apply for a job, we'll put in the resume, right? And the resume is one-sided, right? It's somewhat like your profit and loss balance sheet, right? When we look at a LinkedIn profile of a person and the person has been quite active, then you see many dimensions to that person, isn't it? Right? We will see the interactions that the person has had, what they're interested in, the interactions that the person has had with other people, the recommendations, right? So all these things are there in a LinkedIn profile of a person, giving a very multiple dimensions of looking at this person just than a flat resume. Now, when I look at a balance scorecard of a company as well, it's the kind of same thing, right? You have different layers that you're looking at. Right? Now, if I look at a financial perspective, what do you think, Truss? What do you think would be some of the KPIs?
Maybe market share, like you said there, of the, particularly for Spark Space, of the HPU systems, and of course of the traditional server systems.
Okay. Anyone else? Gavin, what do you think? Financial perspective, what do you think? What kind of KPIs are we looking at? Key performance indicators are we looking at?
Under the financial?
Yes. So basically it will be looking at the traditional ratios, right? Your GP margins, NP margins, all this kind of traditional financial, the ROIs, P ratios, all these kind of traditional ratios will be there from a financial angle, right? But then when we come to, so those are the KPIs, and we will have the KPIs. We will of course compare it with your other competitors as well. But then when we look at from a customer angle, right, the customers might give you a different story, right? And basically we are looking at what does the customer tell about you, right? And these days, if you look at hotels, right, and certain events, you can go to TripAdvisor and immediately you can see the hotel's KPI, right? It gives you what the customer thinks about it. Most people nowadays, prior to booking a hotel or an event or what, they will go into TripAdvisor and search and see, what does people think about it, how they rate it. Yeah. So this is a customer angle. For Spark Space, what do you think would be some of the KPIs? What do you think? So what business are we in? Let's look at that. Let's discuss this. What business are we in? Truss, what do you think?
The IT services sector?
IT, yes, but what specifically
Okay.
are we doing in this space?
Providing hardware and
Hardware.
follow-on services.
Yes, they're supposed to give some specific services as well, right? Value added activities, right? Value added services. Now, you need to set up some KPIs based on those value added services to see, okay, what about the quality? The service level agreements, have we achieved service level agreements? If you're running projects, have we delivered the project on time, on budget, and actually achieved our deliverables, right? So these are some of the measurable KPIs Sparkspace can have, right? What do you think of internal business control perspective? What do you think that we can have here? Any views here? Now,
Meeting customer service,
yeah, go on.
meeting service level agreements.
Yeah, customer expectations, control measures, right? Then we look at our
IT security.
competencies. Yes, security, our competencies, skills. What type of things should we have internally in order for us to excel? Because this will link to customer perspective as well. If we have a strong internal processes and, like said, the skills and security, this will definitely flow into the customer perspective quadrant as well. Innovation and learning perspective, what do you think that is? That will show, well, how do we train our people? I mean, do we invest in our people, right? Because we are looking at coming up with some new innovative things. So in order to do that, you need to invest in your people, right? Invest in your people and see how they add to the business, right? So you can see that if I would to read the balance scorecard of a company, by just reading it, you will be able to understand how the company is doing, right? How well the employees are treated. So the balance scorecard is one method, and there is another reporting, the integrated reporting that has come up, something similar to the balance scorecard. We'll go through that as well. Again, with that, we look at the company's performance in different angles. Okay, now let us go to the next. Here again, I have given you, I don't know whether you can see it well, but this looks a little bit blurred, but when I give you the presentation, the slide pack, you can have a look at it. Basically, now from a customer angle, you can see I have given this is an example of an IT company, right? So they are looking at from a customer angle. Now, especially for us, we are actually acting as a business partner, isn't it? Because depending on how good we are, what type of advice, what we give to our customers, the customers will increase their own sales, right? So it's important those customers have a good partner, a good IT partner, and that's what we can give, right? And that needs to be measured as well. Financial is easy because we have those ratios to calculate, etc. The business process, internal processes, we're looking at, well, reducing cycle times, provide rapid responses. Say, for example, looking at the service level agreement, the SLAs, right? Are we supposed to complete it in 5 days? Have we taken 10 days? Obviously we have bridged, right? And that that way, that's not going to have a very good customer experience, right? How much we've cross-sold, right? And learning growth, we're looking at the people angle. So what we will do is actually do a question on this balance scorecard, because it's important that you need to get this into your head and try to understand how to answer one of these questions as well, right? Again, I have put in a balance scorecard, another example, for you to get an understanding what you should be thinking of when it comes to Spark Space, right? And how you can come up with some KPIs as well, right? Now we speak about governance, right? In governance perspective, do they talk a lot about governance in this particular case study? Trust, what do you think?
There was I didn't see it. There was little or nothing about governance in the pre-sim. There were just mentioned. You only mentioned executive directors. There was no mention of non-executive directors. No committees discussed, and it was very minimal mention on governance.
Yes, and the thing is, what do you think? Should we have a lot of governance in this particular industry or in this particular company? Do you think? What do you think? First and foremost, is it a listed company? Gavin, what do you think? Is it a listed company?
I don't think so. They're not given any details on it.
Right. So one of the things is this. It seems like it's not a listed company. However, it might be very good that they have the governance, these boards as well. The reason is they're working in a very sensitive area, right? They're working in an area where you're working with data, you're working with new technologies, and you're working with companies that provide very critical data to the masses as well. So the governance of the company, how it operates, is quite important, right? Now, this will also provide the steer to the company as to how to move. And safety and risk committees is quite important. The risk committee, because we do have quite a few risks in this space. So to that effect, we should have basically a risk committee. I would also look at the auditing angle of it, because that is important. Why do you think an audit committee is quite important here? Any reason? Any reason why the audit committee could be quite important here? We might be working with other people's data, right? And we are helping them as well. So we also need to see, auditing of systems, any anomalies, any issues. It's something similar, not only financial audits, but also goes into the operational audits. So in that perspective, it becomes quite important to ascertain and review and look at, how the operation's done, right? What is required. Yeah? And now let us governance and Spark Space, as well as I have done some analysis on these Amazon Web Services, right? And we look at the environmental angle now and say this, how does environment impact here? Because we use a lot of energy, right? And it says in our pre-scene the energy that's used. Can you remember, Gavin? There is a sentence there, isn't it? There is a paragraph, I think, they talk about the energy consumption. Did you see that? So
yeah, it says about 30%.
Correct. Yeah. So that is quite significant, and what we want to do is to try to reduce that, right? To reduce it. So you can see, like Amazon Web Services, they focus on reducing this energy and using alternate energy, right? Investing in alternate energy as well, and then look at, well, what can we are the processes that we can do to reduce this energy consumption. Now, this energy consumption and the reduction of it, if I'm to put it in the balance scorecard KPI, which quadrant can I put this into? What do you think? Any idea?
The reduction of energy cost.
Yes.
Financial.
Okay.
Can come under financial as well. It has cost. Any questions?
Innovation and learning.
Innovation and learning. Okay. What else? Anything else? So this could be innovation, right? And innovation and learning. It could also have a KPI under the financials to show you how much reduction. But innovation, the reason is, well, this is my traditional method that's used, but then I have gone into this this new way of doing things, right? So from an operational point of view, you can track your energy consumption in the finance KPI, but from an innovation angle, I'm tracking it as to what are the new things I have done to to reduce the energy consumption, right? Now, these are some of the activities of Amazon Web Services, right? Things that they have done, and you could see they're heavily into using alternate power. Then the collaborations, right, are happening. So this is a very active market where you actually need to look at, well, what are we emitting, right? What is our emission look like, and therefore how are we going to reduce it? Okay, because that's an important angle. Now we look at ethics and CSR, right? We need to look at who are the key stakeholders, how are they impacted, and what are the CSR activities related to each stakeholder. Now, ethics is, we had a look at it. We said, well, from a high level, there are many situations that we can get into which can be ethical situations, right? So what do you think some of the issues that may come up with Spark Space and ethics? What do you think? Gavin, any views from you?
On the ethics side, sure?
Yes, ethics side. Look at your scenario. What kind of business are we in? And
information.
Yes, information.
Yeah.
And from an ethical standpoint, what kind of things can come up?
Security.
Security, data.
Security, what else?
hacking data can get that's legal implications.
And what are the situations?
Safety of the employees who are dealing with the technical side.
Yes, that's right. And you can see that ethics will come in different ways, because you might be in a situation, you might be holding data, right? And also you might be in a situation when there is it has been compromised, something has been compromised. How will you react to that, right? So there is a possibility where some issue might happen, and you're in the press, right? It's an event that happened and it gets to the media. How will you deal with it, right? Whatever the event may be, okay, whatever the event may be, there is a situation, we have got this in the press, right? How will you deal with it? What is your response to that?
Ethical wise, we would deal with it in a more responsible way for the society. And even though it is like it's going to lose a lot of money to the business, still ethical point of view, it has to be we have to be responsible for the society and the stakeholders that we are dealing with.
Correct. So the first thing is we need to find out what is the issue, who is impacted, and is it legal, right? So you go on asking these questions, and you need to see, well, is it who is impacted, is it legal, and what is the consequence of it as well, right? And at times, where the issue may come across where you have a very influential stakeholder, and they're able to mask this whole thing, right? Influential person in the organization who can mask this. So again, you need to take that very clear view of, well, from an ethical standpoint, is it right or wrong? And there's a right or wrong answer, there's no gray, and you take that position, right? At times you need to look at the human. If, for example, sometimes a person has compromised the data, but accidentally, right? And then you will have to look at the position of the company as well as the person, how you deal with both, right? That's an important thing. In one of the case studies where this happened, where the public was impacted, and the company, you need to talk to the media about this is what happened and be upfront about it, and then you need to deal with the person as well. Okay, so there might be 2-3 things involved, and you need to understand how you deal with that. And when it comes to corporate social responsibility activities, what do you think that some of the corporate responsibility activities that these guys can do?
I think they are already doing something with the university. As part of it. They're taking on, they can take in maybe undergrads into into a training program.
Right.
They already having some tie-ups, so that is there. We can do for. This would help them also. You can get experienced staff. I'm not saying that at low wages, but
yeah,
it will help both, it will help the staff plus will help the student plus the company as well.
And if they are looking at CSR, because companies need to look at CSR as a very clear item, and because they need to be reporting on these as well. And suppose this company is going to get in to be a listed company, these are things that they will have to record even prior to the listing, right? So they need to have a very clear idea what are the CSR activities that they're doing, the investment, what are the KPIs as well, right? Each of the activities that they do, they need to have a clear goal as to what they're supposed to achieve. So it's not a case of, right, let me take 5 people as interns, or let me take give 100,000, right? So there needs to be very clear goal. This is what I'm investing, what are the KPIs related to it. The KPIs are not finance KPIs as a return on investment, but it's a case of, well, I'm investing so much, what am I expecting it to give to society, right? That's the way that they will have to look at it. And let's look at critical success factors, right? Critical success factors for this company, of course, security, right? Security will be one of the most important things. And security, when it comes to security, you need to also think of not only hardware, what other security aspects will you be looking at? What other things will you be looking at? So where can the security breaches take place? Where can the security breaches take place when it comes to Spark space?
Security of information of other clients.
Correct. And that's happened by who? So you need to be very careful of who you recruit as well, right? So you saw that we have got position vacancies, right? They have listed. So that's the first time I have seen these position vacancies listed. You can not sure why they've listed it there. So there all kinds of thoughts come to our mind, why there are about 5 vacancies. So security, not only securing the hardware, but security of the people who are working there is important. Who are they, their background, the checks, right? And they need to be, it's even you have cleared somebody and brought this person in, you do not stop the checks at that point. There has to be some other checks that go on with these people, especially because they're involved in very sensitive information, right? They have access to very sensitive information of their clients, right? So it is important that kind of regular security checks are maintained, hardware as well as the people. Okay. Then we look at highly trained, experienced staff. Now, for this, we need to pay people well, we need to train them, we need to invest in them, right? Because we need to ensure that they don't move and go away, because they are the key to our success. So what other things can you do, Truss, in order to keep people motivated, keep people within the company? Any ideas?
So if we want to use the Herzberg motivational factors, that would include things like performance rewards, performance shares, ensuring that they're continually trained, since this is a highly professional skill. and giving them challenging projects and not just routine server building, server
Right.
assemblies.
Yeah. Yeah, good. So I like the fact that you used a model and then you linked it quite well and see, what drives that person, right? What drives that? What are the motivational factors that person? And then give this person activities that is linked to it, and there is a path. So that is very good. And because if you look at the products that we offer, and if you look at the next two bullet points as well, it's great customer service, innovation, everything comes from highly trained, experienced staff, right? People have to have a very innovative culture, a conducive culture in order to provide this kind of come up with innovation and provide great customer service. Otherwise, they're not going to give you that. Okay, innovation is critical because it depends. Our innovation, our new things will drive the business of our customers as well. You can see a direct link from our knowledge. It's actually the gain is to our customers and how they gain with this our knowledge, that new things that we do. And let us go to the next point. Stakeholder analysis is something that we have to do. I have left this space because what we will be doing is we will be going into questions quite a lot and analyzing, taking these models and then seeing how we can apply these into the Mandelow's matrix, right? Apply these models into my questions, right? Into the specific answers. We spoke about the ethics aspects of it, and CIMA has their own ethics, right? These are the principles, and you should know this by heart, right? Because you need to be able to call upon these and state in a case study, well, here you go, this is where things, this particular principle is compromised, and you should be able to identify what it is, right? Now, there are also, quite interestingly, there are threats that affect these principles, right? Now, this actually can be related to our case study because I mentioned the employees having access, right, to data. But if they are threatened in some way, themselves or their loved ones, in some way by another party, for whatever reason, then your principles can be compromised, right? You might provide this data. There will be a lot of things that may happen. There's conflict of interest that may happen as well, and because due to these threats. Gavin, do you see this happening in our case study? Do you see a situation like this?
What you meant was that if a staff member is put at risk, family members put at risk, ransom, information being leaked out?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, because where there is information, because this is a lot of information of customers.
Correct.
But Anju, sorry, now the company deals with hardware and they do maintenance, but this information is stored at the company, at the respective client's database. So these guys are not doing any cloud services as of now. So would this be applicable?
Because you are also, you are providing and you are installing, right? So to that extent, you have access, right? You have access to that extent. Because
Okay.
imagine when you're working in a project, and these big projects, you will have access to a lot of things. You're providing the hardware, but you don't, to get things going, the hardware guys sit with your database administrator, with your software guys, and to ensure everything is working. So you work as one team, right?
Yeah, on the consultancy side, they have a lot of, they could be in possession of a lot of things.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Right. Basically, we look at how to achieve success. We're looking at research, project management, the reputation, health, safety, environment, the public, the PR, and the service as well. These are areas in order. If you have to achieve great success, we have to focus on these things because, well, it's directly related to our financials, right, immediately. Because if you don't do your projects properly, project management doesn't happen, it hits your bottom line, right? Research development, we need to invest as well, but that's an interesting topic because we need to ensure what our KPIs are related to this research, right? So what I'm going to do at this point is look at, we will end the class today, but I'm going to be doing more questions tomorrow. So what I would like you to do is actually go through your pre-scene quite a bit and look at the models, right, that might be applicable. Look at your things like project management, how to evaluate a project. We saw the question, what has been asked, so we need to be able to answer it appropriately. So tomorrow I will be doing more questions, right? Not less theory, but more questions. So that's it.
Anju?
Yeah.
Sorry, Anju, the past last time, May 2016 answer.
Yes.
I can, from where can I find, I'm just on my site, from where can I find which?
So it is there in the CIMA website as well, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you access into another Dropbox where you will have the questions, answers in there.
Oh, okay. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Because I'm on the CIMA site, but I can't locate it. But it is
Right, it is very
Dropbox,
difficult. Yes, yeah.
I will check it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Anju, are the videos available now for the previous classes?
Correct. So there are a couple of them that's gone up already. It's on the YouTube. The other two, Sandy has recorded 3 sessions. But what I need to do is to upload it into the YouTube, right? So which will happen during this weekend, because he's just managed to record it and upload it to our Dropbox. It's there, which we need to upload to again to the YouTube. All right, so we will stop for tonight and meet tomorrow. Have a good night and see you.